I'm Adrian Seet, and Nightline begins right now. The top stories. Schools to shut if temperature hits above 37 degrees Celsius for 3 days. An Aidilfitri Kuah Kacang mishap. Baby girl suffers burns. Thanks for joining us. A 17-month-old baby girl suffered burns to her body after accidentally being drenched in hot peanut sauce or kuah kacang that had just been made by the child's mother. In the incident in Tanah Merah, Kelantan, it was reported that the victim, Nur Armel Belinda Irmi, suffered burns to her stomach, thighs, legs and a part of her face. The baby's mother, 26-year-old Nur Amni Shazwani Azman, said in the incident at around 8:30 p.m. on Friday night, she was preparing the freshly cooked peanut sauce that was to be packed and given to a family member. The hot peanut sauce was put in a container and placed on the table. Her daughter, however, had approached the table and reached for the container that caused the burning hot contents to be splashed all over her body. Her mother immediately carried her to the restroom to be cleaned before rushing the child to the hospital. The victim had received initial treatment in the emergency zone before being transferred to the normal ward a few hours later. According to doctors, the baby girl had suffered 10% burns and the wounds needed to be dressed to prevent infection. In Kuala Lumpur, a woman was killed in a fire that started in the kitchen of a shop house in Taman Overseas on Sunday. KL Fire and Rescue Department Operation Commander Muhammad Khairul Nizat Muhammad Roki said the 47-year-old woman was found dead in a room adjacent to the kitchen in the house. In a statement, Khairul said 9 firefighters were rushed to the scene after the department was alerted about the incident at 8:43 a.m. When the firefighters arrived, the fire had been extinguished by members of the public. The fire involved only the kitchen, measuring about 10 feet by 10 feet, but it had been completely destroyed. Further checks, however, led to the finding of the body of the victim in the room adjacent to the kitchen. The cause of the fire is still being investigated. School administrators will be allowed to shut schools immediately if the heat reaches the level 2 warning with the highest temperature exceeding 37 degrees Celsius for 3 consecutive days. The directive also applies to all educational institutions under the Education Ministry in areas that have been declared by Met Malaysia as being affected by the hot weather. The guidelines were issued by the Education Ministry through a circular signed by the Deputy Director General of Education, Dr. Nurisa Suhaili, due to the current weather conditions in several locations across the country. The circular further stated that all outdoor activities involving students and teachers, such as cross-country events, camping, parades, sports and games outside of school buildings, must be stopped during the hot weather. School closures due to hot weather must be immediately communicated by administrators to the registrar, both verbally and in writing, using any appropriate medium. Similarly, the administrator must also inform parents or guardians regarding the closing or opening of educational institutions due to current weather conditions. It added that parents are also allowed to take their children to the hospital or return home if they were found to be unwell while at school. It further stated that school administrators must ensure that the rooms in the school premises have good ventilation and are constantly monitored to avoid any health risk to students, such as the heat stroke. In the case of an immediate school closure due to hot weather, the school administrator must also determine a suitable date for a replacement school session, which must be communicated to the registrar. Meanwhile, any decision on the proposal to extend school holidays due to the current heat wave will be brought up for discussion at the Sabah Cabinet level. Sabah Science, Technology and Innovation Minister Datuk Muhammad Arifin Muhammad Arif said that the matter will also be discussed at the federal and the state education department levels.
Saya juga akan memanggil PPD di daerah-daerah untuk mendapat pandangan mereka. untuk sekolah ni apa-apa keputusan di peringkat federal kita akan bawa di peringkat negeri untuk dibincangkan. Terima kasih kepada rakan-rakan media.
Dato' Arifin said this to reporters after the state government's Aidilfitri open house at the Sabah International Convention Centre on Sunday. The event was attended by the Sabah Yang di-Pertua Negeri Tun Juha Mahirudin and his wife Tuan Puan Nurlidah R.M. Jasni, Prime Minister Dato' Sri Anwar Ibrahim, Chief Minister Dato' Sri Hajiji Noor and the state government leadership. On Friday, Deputy Prime Minister Dato' Sri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi was reported to have said that the cabinet should discuss whether the school holidays should be extended following the heatwave that is currently hitting the country, resulting in 2 deaths involving children. The Prime Minister wants the country's diverse festivals and cultures to be the main feature that unites the people. Dato' Sri Anwar Ibrahim said all levels of society need to play a role in ensuring that the country's diversity remains intact with love and mutual understanding. Speaking during a Sabah Aidilfitri open house in Kota Kinabalu on Sunday, Dato' Sri Anwar urged the community to continue to ignite the virtues of Aidilfitri throughout the celebration of Shawwal. The Prime Minister also congratulated Chief Minister Dato' Sri Hajiji Noor and the state government on their success in organising the open house. This year's celebration is special as the event could be held openly compared to the previous years due to the pandemic, and it received a good response from visitors of various backgrounds.
Saya datang sih sebab gembira. Berapa hari ini kerja saja, and merasa lepas 2 tahun lockdown kan, so event macam ni jarang dibuat dekat Sabah, dekat sisi ni. Itu yang saya datang sini, mau enjoy.
Bagi saya baguslah sebab rakyat bukan selalu boleh jumpa PM kan, so bila ada majlis macam ni, so rakyat biasa macam kami boleh berjumpa dengan Perdana Menteri pun bukan senang. So ini satu peluang untuk kami beramah mesra.
Hari raya ni hari raya bermakna buat kami semualah.
Sebab kenapa bermakna tu? Sebab tak balik kampung? Mana?
Kampung Johor. Sebab tak balik kampung, tapi walaupun tak dapat balik kampung, kita dapat merasa suasana kampung di sini. Di negeri Sabah ni lah dapat rasa suasana kampung, terubat rindu di hati.
Some 20,000 people thronged the Sabah State Government Aidilfitri Open House at the Sabah International Convention Centre, SICC, on Sunday. Yang di-Pertua Negeri Tun Juha Mahirudin and Dato' Sri Anwar were amongst those present at the open house, hosted by Dato' Sri Hajiji and his cabinet members. Dato' Sri Anwar, who arrived from Kuala Lumpur at about 11 a.m., took time to mingle with the crowd, who were entertained by local celebrities at the outdoor podium before joining in the celebrations inside. People from all walks of life began streaming to the SICC grounds at 8 a.m., where they were treated to Aidilfitri delicacies served from more than 50 stalls. Many guests who turned up were not only from around Kota Kinabalu, but also from the east coast of Tawau, as well as from Keningau and other areas around Sabah. Earlier, Dato' Sri Hajiji gave out donations to more than 70 underprivileged people, including the elderly folk, Society for the Blind, Society for the Deaf, as well as children from welfare homes and orphanages at the event. Later in the day, Dato' Sri Anwar attended Deputy Prime Minister Dato' Sri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi's Aidilfitri Open House at the Sri Satya Complex in Putrajaya. The event, which began at around 4 p.m, was also attended by several cabinet ministers, including Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Minister Dato' Sri Salahuddin Ayub and Foreign Minister Dato' Sri Zamri Abdul Qadir. UMNO's top leadership was also present at the event. Amongst them, Vice President Dato' Sri Wan Rosdi Wan Ismail and Secretary General Dato' Ashraf Wajdi Dusuki. Also present was Media Prima Berhad Group Chairman Dato' Sri Dr. Syed Hussein Al-Junid. At the event, the Prime Minister spent some time indulging in a few dishes and enjoying some durian before mingling and taking pictures with the guests. The Malaysian Employers Federation, MEF, has congratulated all employees ahead of Labour Day for their contribution to businesses and the nation. Its president, Dato' Syed Hussein Syed Husman, has reminded employees that they are responsible for providing a safe and healthy workplace, ensuring employees are well trained and skilled, and offering salaries and benefits in line with market rates. He pointed out that employees are expected to follow the requirements of the organisation where they work, as it is imperative that industrial peace and harmony be maintained to enable the nation to progress. Dato' Syed Hussein also thanked employees and trade unions for their understanding and cooperation during the challenging time of the COVID-19 pandemic. He emphasised that employees, employers and the government must work together to achieve progress and build a Malaysia Madani. Malaysia's job market remains a challenging environment for many job seekers as the nation continues to grapple with the economic impact of the pandemic. Despite high levels of unemployment, employers continue to struggle with finding skilled workers to fill positions in their companies. Alif Yunus has the report.
I think low minimum wage issue definitely needs to be addressed because 10 years back, the minimum wage is still pretty much the same compared to now, and the cost of living has definitely increased a lot. So I think low minimum wage is something that the government really needs to look into.
I have experienced so much, not only what I studied for, which is, for example, I studied for building surveying, but I have experienced much in theatre, much in media related and everything. So what can I say? Yes. In life, yes, I think graduates will experience this mismatch of jobs.
Because our local doesn't want to work. Most of the sector tak banyak boleh dapat local workers. So the government need these foreign workers.
Many graduates are struggling to find employment, while some industries are facing a shortage of skilled workers. According to Malaysian Trade Union Congress, MTUC President Muhammad Effendi Abdul Ghani, there are several measures that can be taken to bridge the gap between worker skill and job opportunities.
I think investing in the workers' developments and providing clear career paths can benefit to the employer in several ways. Because as you know that the employees is the asset for the employer. So it can be lead to increase the productivities and the efficiency as a workers become more skilled and knowledgeable. Second, I think it can be improved the employees' retention rates, reducing the cost associated with the high turnover. It's know that it is now most of the employers said they have a highly turnover in their workplace, and thirdly, it can enhance the employer as a reputation to be desirable place to work, which I think it can attract more the talent, top talent to work with this in any organizations. And finally, it can create more engaged and motivated workforce for leading to better overall work environments.
The Malaysian Employers Federation, MEF, on the other hand, called for a more comprehensive approach to addressing the issue, including increasing productivity, improving working conditions, and investing in technology.
Employers need to introduce new technology and also automation of most of the processes. And of course, to do that, the employees need to also upgrade or reskill themselves so that they are able to operate the new technology introduced by the employers. However, to introduce new technology and also automation is not a cheap affair, and the government need to actually incentivize employers to actually introduce new technology at the workplace.
Both MEF and MTUC also raise other issues such as the over-reliance on foreign workforce that affects the Malaysian labour market. While foreign workers play an important role in certain industries, there is a need to ensure that there is a balance between local and foreign workers and that local workers are not excluded from job opportunities. To address this issue, MEF and MTUC believe that it is important for the government to enforce regulations on foreign workers and for employers to prioritise local workers and provide fair and equitable working conditions for all employees. As Malaysia celebrates Labour Day this year, a collaborative effort among stakeholders is crucial to finding solutions to these challenges and to ensure a better future for the labour force in Malaysia. Alif Yunus, TV3.
The Barisan Nasional Pakatan Harapan seat distribution for the upcoming state elections will be finalised only after the respective state legislative assemblies have been dissolved. BN Deputy Chairman Datuk Sri Muhammad Hassan said both political parties in the unity government should instead focus on formulating strategies and ways to win the polls.
Kalau kita cerita pasal kerusi nanti memang akan masalah. So, kerusi ini besok kita buat pembahagian selepas Dewan Undangan Negeri dibubarkan. By that time, I think we don't have choice, kan? Kita tak ada pilihan apa-apa lagi. Kita bersetuju and we go for it. Kalau daripada sekarang kita cakap pasal kerusi, memang masing-masing tak mau beralah. Lama-lama besok kita bergaduh sesama sendiri. Tak guna juga. Ya? So jangan kita cerita pasal kerusi dulu, cerita pasal macam mana nak untuk kita menang. Dan sekarang ni kita ada, orang kata ada teritori kita yang mana kita menang dulu ataupun kita kalah, kita katakan dulu, itu perlu kita fokuskan, ya? Supaya kita tidak tergelincir daripada keutamaan iaitu nak menang. Kita nak menang, ya? Bukan kita berapa BN nak menang, berapa PS nak menang. Kita nak menang, ya? Di bawah kerajaan perpaduan di peringkat persekutuan.
Datuk Sri Mohamad said this after attending the Rembau Parliamentary Constituency Aidilfitri Open House on Sunday. Apart from Negeri Sembilan and Selangor, the state elections are due to be held in Kedah, Pulau Pinang, Kelantan and Terengganu. Of the total, 3 states, namely Kedah, Kelantan and Terengganu, are controlled by Perikatan Nasional, BN. Datuk Sri Mohamad, who is BN Election Director, said the final decision on the seat negotiations between PH and BN would be made by the central leadership of the 2 political blocs. The government has agreed to continue the construction of the Changlun Mosque in Kedah with an additional allocation of 3.07 million ringgit, taking the total cost of the project to 5.77 million ringgit. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim said the project would be implemented as soon as possible for the benefit of the local community. In a statement, he said the unity government is concerned and committed in ensuring balanced development amongst all states in the country. He also reiterated that the unity government had never sidelined any state for the sake of the people's welfare. Indonesia braces for surge of COVID-19 infections. News from the foreign front right after this short break. Tens of thousands fled the bloody turmoil, with former Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok warned that the conflict would deteriorate into one of the world's worst civil wars if not stopped early. As deadly hostilities have entered a 3rd week, clashes were reported between army forces and paramilitaries in Khartoum on Sunday, despite the latest ceasefire, which was formally set to expire at the end of the day. It was understood that the army carried out airstrikes in the capital's twin city of Durman across the Nile River. Millions of Sudanese have endured crippling shortages of water, food, medicine and other basic supplies, while tens of thousands have fled to neighboring countries with more on their way. According to the United Nations, tens of thousands had escaped to Chad, South Sudan, Ethiopia and the Central African Republic. Indonesia is preparing for a surge in COVID-19 cases, particularly for new Omicron subvariant XBB.1.16, after a high mobility of people during the Aidilfitri holiday. The ministry confirmed 1,879 new active COVID-19 cases as of Thursday, bringing the tally of infections to 6,769,005, with the numbers continuing to rise in the last 2 weeks. The country's health ministry said that people were advised to wear masks for activities indoors and in public places, particularly those who found themselves with flu, and follow health protocols again. The Arcturus infections have started to spread in Indonesia since the end of March, but there has been no specific number of infections since the Eid holiday. Indonesia recorded the largest annual travelling in its history during the Aidilfitri, with no less than 123 million people across the country going to their hometowns or their relatives' houses. The United States called on China on Saturday to stop prerogative and unsafe conducts in the South China Sea after a recent near collision with a Philippines Coast Guard boat. Washington accused China of harassment and intimidation of Philippine vessels after 2 Chinese Coast Guard vessels blocked Philippine patrol boats in the vicinity of Ayungin Shoal, with one of the ships carrying out dangerous maneuvers coming within 50 yards of the Filipino boat. The State Department also warned that an attack on Philippine security forces or public vessels would trigger a U.S. response. The incident happened as the U.S. and the Philippines were conducting their largest joint military exercise that are due to end on Friday, and the discussion of defense deals with President Joe Biden in a meeting next week. Thailand's main opposition party, Pheu Thai, is in prime position ahead of the country's hotly contested May 14th general election, with the latest poll showing it has a significant lead over its political rivals. According to the Swan Dusit poll released on Saturday, Pheu Thai, which has a long-standing affiliation with former Premier Thaksin Shinawatra, won the backing of 41.37% of roughly 162,000 eligible voters surveyed. The Move Forward Party, which proposes some of the most reform-minded progressive policies, came second with 19.32% support, while the United Thai Nation Party of incumbent Premier Prayut Chan-o-cha received a 8.48%, and the Palang Pracharat Party, led by Deputy Prime Minister Prawit Wongsuwan, saw 7.49% support. The election is shaping up to be a battle between the pro-establishment groups of the ruling military-backed coalition and a pro-democracy camp of opposition parties. Malaysia set a 40-goal target for 32nd SEA Games. Sports when we come back. The national contingent are targeting 40 gold, 37 silver and 64 bronze medals at the Games in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. Youth and Sports Minister Hannah Yeoh, in making the announcement on Sunday, also stressed that the target was set after discussions with all national sports federations. Yeoh said despite the 40 gold medal target, she believes that the national contingent of 677 athletes, with 440 or 65% of them making their debut at the biennial games, can rake in more than the targeted number of medals.
Sasaran pingat untuk kontingen Malaysia ke Sukan SEA Cambodia kali ini telah disasarkan sebanyak 40 pingat emas, 37 pingat perak dan 64 pingat gangsa. Saya ulangi, 40 pingat emas, 37 pingat perak dan 64 pingat gangsa. Kita bagaimanapun percaya bahawa akan ada atlet-atlet yang mampu mencipta kejutan.
Meanwhile, President of the Olympic Council of Malaysia, Tan Sri Muhammad Nurza Zakaria, said that other countries have lowered their expectations in terms of targets due to many events that were not contested in the previous Hanoi SEA Games.
Dari segi target, ya. Kalau dari segi target, negara-negara lain pun cut dia punya expectation because of banyak acara-acara yang dulu di Hanoi tidak ada di Cambodia. Ya. So I think 40 again, as YB katakan tadi, adalah moderate.
The national contingent will be taking part in 340 events, which is 58.42% of the 582 events being contested. The Phnom Penh SEA Games will be held from May the 5th until the 17th. After the break, a policewoman seriously injured on her way to work. Stay with us. A policewoman was seriously injured in the shoulder after being hit by a car driven dangerously by a man while on her way to work in Terengganu on Sunday. Kemaman District Police Chief Superintendent Hanyan Ramlan said prior to the accident, the driver who crashed into the policewoman had a fight with his mother-in-law believed to be due to a dispute over property in a house in Jalan Dato near Chukai. Hanyan said in the fight, the 51-year-old man took out a stick and damaged his mother-in-law's car before she drove to the Chukai police station for help. The suspect chased after her and crashed into the victim's motorcycle while attempting to overtake in a dangerous manner. The 36-year-old policewoman was rushed to the Kemaman hospital for further treatment. The man fled the scene but was arrested at 2:15 p.m. in Ibo, about 18 kilometers from the scene when his car broke down. The suspect tested negative for drugs and has no previous records. The case is being investigated under the Road Transport Act 1987 and the Penal Code. Over in Johor, a housewife was charged at the Johor Bahru Sessions Court on Sunday with neglecting a female toddler under her care last month. 31-year-old Nur Huzaimah Herman claimed trial after the charge was read out to her before Judge Dato Ahmad Kamal Arifin Ismail. Nur Huzaimah, who was the 3-year-old girl's babysitter, was charged with neglecting the toddler, which resulted in physical injuries to her. The toddler sustained injuries after she was pinned down by a bicycle and died on March 28th. The offence was allegedly committed at the Pelangi Indah People's Housing Project on March 21st. The charge under the Child Act 2001 carries the maximum 50,000 ringgit fine or 20 years jail or both upon conviction. The court allowed the accused a bail of 5,000 ringgit with one surety and ordered her to report to the Pelangi Indah Police Station once a month throughout the duration of the case. The court then set July 3rd for mention. With the coronation of King Charles III just about a week away, preparations are underway in the United Kingdom. As we wrap up Nightline, let's take a look as troops from the UK and around the Commonwealth held full rehearsals of the military procession on Sunday for the coronation. With that, I'm Adrian Seet. Thank you for tuning in and have a great week ahead.